Hello and welcome to the summary of the previous reports 1601 and 1603. Wanting to do this because it's turned pretty interesting, I would say. The grammatical difference between inner and outer, or rather the inner and outer difference, is the grammatical aspects of language when it comes to how we speak about first person experiences and third person experiences. When the first person's perspective speaks, so to say, it does so with absolute certainty. But that is not caused by an access to something hidden. It is because the grammar of the first person perspective is so different. The third person grammatical functionings automatically do not see the first person's perspective as innerness, but different, totally different. And Wittgenstein has an example of different languages. A language could be so ununderstandable that we wouldn't be able to understand it. That does not mean it's hidden. It's unclear to us, but it's nothing hidden in it. It's because of its having a different language. That makes all the difference. Because once we have the innerness established, all these mistakes with innerness and true origin starts, and perception that stems from an hidden innerness becomes the default procedure. Just because we from a third person perspective cannot predict doesn't mean it is supposed to be closed off or in a sort of a seclusion. Nothing of that is what is about. We are dealing with quite different things. That's why he writes that its mistaken belief of seclusion leads to all these ideas of an origin and the subject as being detached. You can give many words for it. I don't think those words are in some way correct, but they do still show that something is misunderstood or wrong. The third person can never be secluded, but we can say that, and what does it mean? It does mean that we have a mistaken belief. Maybe it could be even to say that that expression in itself is an indication of a deeper misunderstanding, friction. Well, we genuinely do not know what the person is thinking. About that, there can be no doubt. But it is, as Wittgenstein writes, or Johnston, a double-edged proposal, because to say it's hidden is to say that it could have been otherwise, or sometimes it's not hidden. It is the notion of knowledge that clouds the issue. The individual has a different language game, a different language altogether, with her own thoughts than any other person. And that is quite different from innerness. And no one else can say what I think or what I feel and what I perceive. It doesn't make any sense, and we all know that. And here's a fun example here. Could be some people who had no idea about these grammatical rules, and that they completely rejected the idea of a subject and ridiculed the idea that the individual acted. So expressions of intention for them would be ungrounded guesses of what's going to be correct about oneself. So I say, I predict I will go to the bathroom soon. Would be an absolute guess. Could be true, or maybe it has a good chance of being true, but it's a complete prediction. I would say that is never the case. But still it's workable. And that means that the facts we have, they can be working with a completely different language game altogether. Isn't that interesting? Here is one of the founding ideas of Western civilization, of the true innerness, which is also the true otherness or outwardness. For with the establishment of a hidden inner comes also the true outer, the atom, the arche, the essence, if you like. So he's dissolving a philosophical problem. I don't like that expression though. It doesn't dissolve them. We understand rather how it's always been and how it is. We stop looking for the innerness the very same instant we understand. Ludwig gives knowledge. Maybe the most important knowledge that ever been. And again it's shown, it's not arguments, it's just evocative images that the individual has no doubts about the content of her own experience, because our language game excludes any such doubts. That is very important. We're coming back home when we understand that. We become grounded. Homecoming feeling. There's some pointers there. Sometimes we just don't know why people are acting the way they are. Psychology often muddles more than it clears off. Not always, but it's sort of survives or thrives in the hiddenness, that it is hidden to the patient, and the doctor, psychologist, psychoanalyst can sort of make archaeology and uncover intentions. So seclusion or essential innerness is part and parcel of psychology, I would say. It's the mirror side of materialism. It establishes a disjunct hiddenness in the mid of that. Establish essentialism of the atom, of space, or time outside of us. And there you go. There we have the brain in the vat, where we are absolutely disjunct in a way. But, as I said originally, we cannot really be disjunct from anything. It's a phrase we use or could use. Wittgenstein shows it's pointing to something else, a grave mistake that doesn't really cover something that could be called inside. Of course, there are some similarities with Derrida in discussing life-death by Jacques Derrida. And the connection there is this tendency to sort of twist the arguments in the direction of the proposal, which is not really what's happening. Instead, there is a confusion in the text. Let me put it this way. The author thinks he has an intention or has a feel for an intention that's separable somehow from the words and the actions he takes. And that intention is what Derrida uncovers as the logocentric tendency. Doesn't have properties. Very hard to say that it has a normal behavior in the language game. Rather, it's what's happening when we don't really understand, when misunderstanding abides. Of course, I would say there's connections here to Heidegger and Dasein. That liveliness is the most truer, non-essentialist thing or being. That comes alive and brings liveliness. It is life and life giver in the truest sense. It's different grammars altogether. Isn't that a surprise? Well, in a way, I think we all sort of suspected this somewhere, most inwardly. Yes, I get surprised by the revelations of Wittgenstein, but there is also some sort of recognition. Well, of course, this is how it has to be working, I say to myself, or I think, or I feel. Otherwise it wouldn't work. I think that sort of point is what Wittgenstein is doing. He's not putting arguments upon arguments and forcing a conclusion on you. Very far from. He opens up the question in a relaxed, easy way and show that look at it this way, it actually gives more understanding, it works better. More efficient, makes more sense, and it turns the illusion to just what it is, an illusion. But not a mistaken belief in that I thought I saw my friend. Then you still see something, but in this case, there's nothing to. You have never seen anything. You've been talking about things, you've been naming them. It could be the separable object or subject. But once the understanding is more in the act, or the misunderstanding were in the act. Yeah, misunderstanding were in the act. It doesn't really refer to something. There is the misunderstanding, like an essence. No. And I mean, that mistaken belief is very common. I think that was present in Henrik von Wright and Anscombe. No, not at all. It doesn't work like ordinary philosophy and other subjects for that matter as well. This is truly different. And that makes it harder to get to it, but well, do try, because the reward is enormous. It's incredibly exhilarating. Yeah, that was my summary of 1601 and 1602. I will get further on 1603 in the book. So far, very, very interesting. Can enjoy that water. Nice pond in the heat of the day.